Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Revizto webinar series on enhancing the power of Revizto through smart engagement of manufacturers and suppliers of building products. My name is Vlad. I'm the APAC director here at Revizto based in Melbourne. And our today's guest is Zolna Murray. She's a being professional with many decades of experience. She's a co-founder and a director in Predefine, and also worked for the likes of Nail Love in New Zealand, UAE government military program, and the likes. We're very lucky to have Zolna today to take us through some of her workflows. Just a quick housekeeping before I transfer over to Zolna. Zolna's part will be going on for around 30 minutes. And after that, we encourage people, and during as well, we encourage people to put in the comments in the Q&A section below, where you should hopefully be able to see in your Zoom webinar window. So just click on Q&A, put in your questions. I'll be monitoring the questions and answering them, but at the end of the session, we will get Zolna to answer directly most of the questions that you guys put there. So without further ado, Zolna, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Just find my screens to share. Okay, can you see my screen? It's currently pretty blank, but can you see it?
I see the blank screen, yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, great. Let's get moving then. So, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm logging in from Dunedin, New Zealand, and I do thank you for joining this webinar, and I thank Revizto for inviting me to share my views on a topic that is still slightly off the charts, but I hope by the end of this session, you guys will all be just as excited about it as I am. So as Vlad said, I trained in Europe as an architect 35, 40 years ago, and have worked in many geographical areas across a large range of both countries and projects, from design end to construction and beyond. I have been fascinated by the digital model-based technology from very early on, so early 1990s, and have been promoting it ever since. Over time, improvements in technology have allowed us to create better and more detailed models, a trend that's somewhat hindered by the industry's doggedly unwillingness to wean itself off drawing-based processes. We can also see that the burden of creating these increasingly more complex models, as well as managing them, still falls largely on a small sliver of the industry, usually the design consultants, likely some of the contractors and their subcontractors. The part of the industry that's seemingly less involved or even interested has been the manufacturers and suppliers segment. Sure, some offer branded digital objects and families to use in modeling packages, and others create specifications that fit an industry standard documents. But their overall impact is small on how across the industry communication is performed. I have long believed that this should be changed, and given the right environment, they would get actively involved with positive contributions. After all, any detail you pick up on a building is likely made up of many elements, all created by companies with vested interest in them. They also have the best knowledge of how their products and systems work and how we should direct others installing them. Contrast this with the mainstream practices of producing building documentation. largely drawing-based still by consultants, often struggling with scope limitations and mismatched skill sets. Or even with common contractual situations where large chunks of buildings are delivered as design and build packages, even when the main setup is that of a design-led project. While I personally have made many attempts during my career to involve manufacturers and suppliers in the building documentation processes, only the emergence of Revizto made this possible on a wider scale. I came across Revizto just over 2 years ago, and since have set up and worked extensively on 3 Revizto-based projects in New Zealand and Australia. This was not my first experience with a cloud-based, model-based, multidisciplinary coordination platform, but caught and kept my attention for several reasons. The first feature is its interface. Simple to a fault. It includes 2 buttons that I believe are pure gold. One is the home button, the other the view button. In a well set up Revizto environment, these 2 buttons can make almost anyone a competent user within minutes. For a long time, effective model viewers were undervalued. Yet accessibility to models should be a #1 priority if we are to take models in construction seriously. The second quality of the platform is its ability to manage huge models and make them available on even mediocre devices. Amalgamating models of pipes, Rio, and thousands of fixings will no longer break the system down. Revizto carries them well. And there is a third one, something that comes from the way it is used on many projects, where models are uploaded, often automatically, in weekly or fortnightly intervals, sometimes even daily, as opposed to limiting model exchanges to design stage milestones. This methodology makes the project development more fluid. Now, all this good stuff, unfortunately, brings some new challenges. Viewing models from the construction end, even good design models look underdeveloped, incomplete. The LOI stuff we've been working on for the last decade or so is somewhat underwhelming when one is to construct these or the buildings. See, a wall may have a long list of parameters attached to it that is good for scheduling and data management, but the people on site ultimately need to see all of the bits that make it up, so everything can be fixed to the correct place all around its perimeter. Graphics beats LOI. The obvious solution to the incompleteness of design models is in preparing good shop drawing models. They should fill in those gaps and provide more comprehensive models with appropriate granularity for building. Now, our experience is that even on full-blown mandated BIM projects, shop drawing models tend to be non-existent, late, poor quality, and/or of low detail. Here, you are looking at one set drawn fully in AutoCAD 2D on a very recent project. So, could there be an opportunity for the manufacturers and suppliers segment of the industry to come on board and fill the gaps, enhance the models, and make the process more effective? After all, someone makes these raw or assembled products and has a stake in where and how they are used. Let's examine a couple of practical examples of what this inclusion of manufacturers and suppliers data could look like. First, product libraries. We could create spaces within the Revizto environment where manufacturers and suppliers would exhibit their own representation of model material. All stakeholders could see these products and services in the environment they work in and assess both the products and their representational qualities. Visual filtering could help with showing only relevant products at a time and at different design and construction stages. And custom properties could link these to other databases. If product libraries were present from early on in projects, then when we move on to detailed design stages, manufacturers and suppliers could sponsor the modeling of substructures, reinforcing, fixings, flashings, and other bits within models traditionally left off due to model size limitations or lack of product understanding. Revisto's appearance profiles allow for colors and branding to change from view to view, differentiating model and product ownership and design responsibilities. Another application is what we name syndicated 3D detailing. Here, the manufacturers and suppliers' models are no longer limited to singular products or systems like shop drawings usually are, but jointly provide full details that are precise, smart, buildable, and can be accessed straight in Revizto, fully associated with their host models and 2D representations. Creation and management of syndicated 3D details requires a distinct party to be assigned these tasks to. Can be part of either the design or the construction teams or an independent consultant. Contemporary procurement and delivery methods allow for this to happen. Syndicated 3D details can significantly reduce costs of producing both models and associated traditional 2D consent drawings, as well as reduce buildability risks. Visual scheduling could be used even when manufacturers and suppliers do not provide their own models but add additional parameters to consultants' models. So, takeoffs, time sequences, maintenance data, or other smarts can be incorporated. LOI combined with good LOD can reduce reliance on traditional specifications and/or manuals. The last planner is a scheduling approach used by many construction companies. Using Revisto's appearance profiles, weekly look-ahead scenarios can be colored according to their trades. The last of these 5 examples is construction management. It may be a surprise that we listed here. After all, there are many applications specializing in this field. Opening up Revizto projects for models coming from the construction management or site management supporting market will definitely enhance overall delivery. Think here, cranes, scaffolding, temporary works, and other contractors with similar scope. Site instructions, task analyses, health and safety discussions all can be more meaningful when the critical data is streamed straight to the participants' phones. Now, looking at these examples, you could say, well, nothing new here. All of this has been possible in modeling packages. Why not just stay there? Now, we believe these approaches are not mutually exclusive, but the Revizto advantages are huge. The main one being that it is such an easy-to-use platform where models can be accessed, assessed, and added to without the need to maintain skills and own multiple forced upon software packages, but focus instead on those tools that are in line with the participants' own production and systems. I also think that we've become somewhat conditioned to this idea that our work must all happen in one application, or at most in a family of packages owned by the same company. This could make us get bogged down and unable to recognize the potential of mixing and matching tools to our needs rather than those of the provider we have sworn allegiance to. I trust I presented a list of viable approaches of including manufacturers and suppliers in building design and documentation processes. But the question is still there. What are the benefits for those manufacturers and suppliers themselves actively being present in Revizto projects? Let me list a couple of those points. First, awareness. They can see what projects are under development and pitch their products appropriately. They can follow trends, make calls on designer performances and contractor behavior. Second, presence. Their products and branding can be in front of those that make buildings happen. And the third, risk management. What better way to ensure their products are used in appropriate places and installed the right way than assisting the documentation process firsthand? This industry has been thriving on ambiguity. Thriving, but also self-destructing. I see the answer in modeling. Early, well, to as much detail as possible. All the effort into arguing why we shouldn't model or what we should and should not model, I believe should be focused on modeling better to more detail and accuracy. With Revizto, you can manage those models easily and filter complex data for everyone to understand. You can also offload some of that burden of modeling to those that would love to help so that they can get to the table easy, the project early. So redesign your relationship with the manufacturers suppliers segment of the industry. In summary, there is a shift in modeling requirements these days. We can model to higher level of detail, and those models can be accessed easier, managed easier too. However, we will lose the buy-in of many if those models aren't good or useful enough. Manufacturers and suppliers are likely to prepare to join the game in a more active role, but we need to talk to them, plan early, involve them in time. Be prepared to challenge current practices and redefine the project environment. I believe these efforts combined will lead to a win-win-win situation, something we don't always aim for in the construction industry. Designers, contractors, and manufacturers and suppliers can all be benefiting from it. Consequently, the AEC industry as a whole will improve. Thank you again for Revizto and all of you who have joined this webinar. I am open to questions, comments, discussion. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Zolna. That was awesome. I'm looking at the Q&A box and there is no questions. So,
Great interest.
guys, we still have 38 people on the call. So any questions, please put them in. We'll allow for a couple of minutes for people to type in if there's any questions so we can discuss.
It is an unusual, well, slightly unusual approach to solving some of the industry's problems, but it is a topic that has interested me for a very long time. And yeah, would be
Now, I
interested to hear
understand
what others think.
you're implementing some of those processes currently on a project. Is that
Yes,
correct?
I am. Yes, that's correct. We are running a project, which is a bit of a pilot project where we are approaching, it is a combination of working with the subcontractors who are already on the project, and often, as it is, they have been signed up with certain scope of work, whether that's producing shop drawings, whatever way they like, often 2D, as I showed you an example. So the first step is to try to nag them into the realization that them doing their drawings in a more model-based environment would be useful. Also, what we do is even the 2D stuff they do, we bring it into Revizto and overlay it, the 3D models. That's a very good feature that we use extensively. So some of those discrepancies can be seen there. But then through these subcontractors and people that provide certain systems, building systems, we are working on reaching the manufacturers that are behind them. So those ones that produce the parts to it, the fixings, the elements, and get them to recognize the benefit of it. I mean, this approach, the problem of this approach, or the challenge of this approach, is that it does require a minimum buy-in for it to really start humming. So there is a bit of a critical mass when you achieve that critical mass. But again, I believe that we are on the right track to get there. And what we are really excited as well is this concept of the syndicated detailing thing, because through the various other parts of our business, we see a lot of detailing still done through 2D. A lot of resources are spent on that. I think it's really highly risky, highly time consuming, and it's basically doesn't benefit anybody on the end of the day. So shifting that into a more 3D based environment is I think paramountly important for everybody.
Cool. We actually have a question from Johan Betts.
Yes.
It says, thanks, Zolna. Typically, who's engaging you and at what stage of the project, and for what scope typically?
Typically, well, there's no typical there's no typical case. It's really because personally I have worked really the full scale from supporting and even within Revizto, working with one project where most of the design is still at the design stage, so most of the people involved are design consultants. So that's one end, but then I've worked a lot of projects that are the other end when they are at the construction stage, although I can hardly say that there are not many projects that these days that are fully designed when they get to construction. They're all in this sort of hybrid environment where lots of the parts are designed and built and get defined through the process. So ideally, we like to get involved very, very, very early when the project gets first discussed, because as I said before, it's really, if you pull these things together and if you work with these manufacturers and suppliers as well, and leverage what they can do. Now, again, that's sound sometimes, and look, I am a trained architect, you know, I've made my I am definitely for keeping architecture as a ethical profession, but I still believe that working with manufacturers and suppliers in a meaningful way is benefiting everybody. So rather than sort of saying, okay, we'll document everything and then they'll come in and then the whole thing gets redocumented 3 more times because we documented certain things without the understanding of how things will actually come together. So pulling those parties in early, working with them from early on, and then see who is going to do what, when, and how. It's really the process. So as early as possible, but you know, never is too late, but earlier if possible.
Awesome. Got another question. This one's not necessarily related to our topic today, but I'm still going to read it out because it's interesting. Matthew Riedniuk asks, how does it compare doing the clash detection directly in Revizto compared to Navisworks? So I'm not really sure whether you actually tried doing clash automation detection in
yes,
Zolna at all.
yes, I have. You know, in one way, they are similar. You know, they're similar as you know, as now, if you know me, I am not a big fan of clash detection as such. Again, as a very old-fashioned traditional architect, I believe in crash avoidance designed to try to minimize clashes. Although clash detection, or as a again, a risk management done at certain points is a good way to do it. So we have the benefits of doing it through Revizto was its ability to connect to, you know, the issue management, to have things filtered through, to have things sorted through in time and directed, you know, the issues that were actually issues directed to the right people through the same process. So again, it's really how much time you do want to spend on the admin part of the process. It's definitely this when you are doing it in Revizto.
Thanks. I would add, obviously, we'd be more than happy to. I believe Matthew's based in Sydney. We'd be more than happy to come by and go through those differences with potentially one of our BIM managers who now works for Revizto, Matt Guns. Some of you guys might know him. He actually used to work for WSP. So we'd be able to share some practical examples and advices on where the differences are and where you get the efficiencies using Revizto Clash Automation compared to the kind of old way with Navisworks.
When sorry, and just to add that, you know, I've put out here about 5 different approaches that we are, you know, all of those approaches we are testing in one way or other, or have tried in the past, or doing it on one project or other. So this is the reason that I pulled them all up in here to show. And you know, if people are interested, I'm very happy to have one-on-ones, show them on you know, the projects as well. I've got 3 projects that I can show you. I did not really want to have them demoed here because, again, you know, for privacy and other issues with some of these projects. But on a one-on-one case, we can look at that and see how these things work in practice. But I'm, you know, just I still want to highlight is just, you know, don't undermine this huge part of the industry that is currently being pushed to the side. And you know, because if you see how from time to time there is a big push to try to get manufacturers, suppliers, Revit or other families and objects, and you know, some of them do really well, but the fact that every year they have to update them, upgrade them, it sort of fizzles out again. So I think with this one here, it really takes off from them that need to always forever, you know, update, and or if they need to update, they can do that within their own manufacturer software. You know, with one of the projects we've did recently was a project where we had over 22 different models, and I think there were about 8 different software originators in it, and a lot of plant, and then this was a geothermal plant, so not everybody is using those, making those, but just the ability to pull in packages from all these different sources, huge plant models, and being able to manipulate them with these was quite really refreshing in this process.
Awesome. Cool. I'm just looking at the Q&A panel, and there doesn't seem to be any more questions.
Okay.
I was going to ask one question. You mentioned that a current project that you're kind of running is a bit of an experimental trial.
Yes.
For the side of things you were presenting to us today. You mentioned a lot of people still modeling, still use 2D drawings, and I understand not everyone's 3D modeling on the project, correct?
That's right, yes.
Do you bring those 2D drawings as well into Revizto?
Yeah, we do. Yeah, we do. And I say what we find that very useful, say for example, to shop drawing assessment, is we bring in the 2D drawings and we put them, we take them through another application so that we make sure that the details come in the right place. So, they're not just flat details, but they come in the right place within the model. And through that sort of overlay, we can see where discrepancies are. So, for example, that shop drawing set had 198 details. We actually went through the 198 details and pulled them into the model through this other application to show where, there were discrepancies or where things weren't actually quite right. So that's one way. So, even if you do absolutely nothing else, but have a good set of consultant models, and you have the need to assess shop drawings, and those shop drawings come in various sort of 2D waveforms, overlaying them in this environment is very effective. And then locking that with the issue management and using your stamps and other things to communicate what you find is again something that makes the process a bit more effective.
That other application you're mentioning, could you share what it is for?
Okay, well, look. Okay, so what happens is that when you have a when you have a set of shop drawings, they come with details that are basically flat AutoCAD or PDF sheets. Now those sheets you can bring into Revizto as sheets, and you can put them pull them in as a sheet and locate them. Now, but if those details, which usually are in a sectional space, then you basically need to bring them into a modeling package, whether that's a Revit or ArchiCAD or Trimble, where what you do is then you mock them and you place that PDF into the correct place within the space, really. And then when it's put on the space, then then you recreate that sheet, loop it back into Revizto, and then it goes into the right place. And then you can overlay it to the model. I've had, within my presentation, I had a couple of examples. I love that feature. I think it's really, really good. It's really good for various reasons. One is to when you have even if you don't have shop drawings, if you have a consultant set of models and drawings, and you overlay a detail on the model, then you straight see what the model incorporates. When I was talking about those boxes, you have these. One recent one was this: we have these internal gutters, and the internal gutter is all just as a box, but then you put the detail over it, and you see all the things that really are needed for that to be making to work. Then that shows the guy straight away, hey, this is where we need. So that would be that looping. When these drawings are created within Revit or ArchiCAD or Trimble or that, then they automatically go on the right place. So that's the difference. So you don't need to go through that looping process
Yeah.
again.
Awesome. That's actually an answer that gives us a lot more detail than what my question was, which is even better. I was just wondering if it was Revit or something else, but you gave the answer as well, that it's either Revit or ArchiCAD or a Trimble product that you use to position the drawings and then just export to Revizto. And I suppose that's also additional time saving instead of trying to do it manually in Revizto for AutoCAD drawings or PDFs.
Well, we find that you know, we actually do use Revizto on one of the projects. We had done a lot of drone pictures. You know, we did drone pictures every month. So those drone pictures we actually pulled into the side model, and those we pulled in the way that, you know, we created a PDF, we pulled it in, and then used the little balls to actually put them on the place. And in that, you know, that's doable, and you get the reasonably precise thing. But when you have, you know, details, shop drawing details, I think this is much more precise to actually take it through a modeling package.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Any other questions, guys? There's no questions in the question and answer box.
And there's one more. Something popped up.
Oh, something popped up. Johan's just thanking us. He says, Zolna and Vlad, great, thanks. Thank you very much for attending, Johan. We hope it was informative.
Yeah. Look, right, guys, I just want to add that to say, you know, even when I was pitching this presentation to Revizto guys, they were a bit skeptical about it, a bit cautious. It is
I was never skeptical.
You weren't?
No.
Okay. So it is unusual, but it's, if you start opening your eyes to it, it is there around you. Okay. When you go to these, you know, when you go to these exhibitions and presentations, and where these guys try to sort of get your attention, and, you know, they'll give you a voucher, they'll give you a pen, they give you a t-shirt and whatever, you know, talk to them and say, hey, you know, what you can actually help me really with is take some of this bloody burden off my back and help, you know. And because again, you know, the reality is that these guys know the best how their products should work now, and that for each of them. Now they might be just singular, but when you pull them all together, then you're actually starting to create this machinery of model makers that can take that. So, you know, it's not to do about, hey, you know, we're shifting the stuff again from the designers or that. It's really sharing the burden of communication, because the industry is not good at the moment. The industry is got the whole communication is carried by a small part of the industry, and even within that small part, you know, there's so few people that actually speak the language of it. So we have to make it more wider, more involve more people. And, you know, ultimately these guys got actually much more money to put the stuff in than you know, your consultants have. So might as well, you know, use that that part there.
Awesome. Beautiful. That said, I want to thank Zolna again a lot for a very insightful presentation. I enjoyed it. And yeah, we can take it offline and talk about why you feel I might have been skeptical some months ago when we first talked about this, because I didn't think I was. And thank you everyone for joining. So if anyone has any extra questions, feel free to reach out. You can find both Zolna and myself very easily on LinkedIn. I'm pretty sure everyone here is on LinkedIn, so you can hit us up that way, or just get a Revizto email from revizto.com and write through the email address, but LinkedIn is probably much quicker and direct and easier. Louisa saying thanks as well. Thank you, Louisa, too. And yeah, I wish everyone a great day, and thank you again, Zolna.
Thank you very much. And yeah, keep in touch. Thanks.
Have a great day. All right.
Okay. Bye all. Thank you.